Okay, good morning everyone. I hope you're doing well. For today, we'll be talking about threat landscape and mitigation strategies. So it's one of the things that cybersecurity teams do, and I'm sure IT team you do this as well, right? Formally or informally, right? So we'll be talking about some of the basics of analyzing threats. So basic concepts and relate it with your organization. So I think that's more relatable apart from just defining what's in the book. And then learn about the threat landscape and how to map it with the current environment that you are in. So I'm sure there are a lot, and depending on the department, they have that you will talk to, they will be sharing some of their own, right? From HR, the threats are different versus in IT or in finance or as students because these are the stakeholders in the organization, right? And then how to combat them. So here we'll be talking about some of the scenarios and what should we do about it? What are the things that um, what are the things that we can do without money involved because when analyzing threats and then later on coming up with a solution, security solution, IT solution, it's very costly. No? But since these are just scenarios, examples, you can share solutions that you have in mind, whether it's cost effective or medyo mahal, right? Okay. So, yeah, some basic security concept. Probably before that, I just want to know, everybody's from DTO, right? The IT team? Or, okay. Help desk, okay. Yeah. Good morning, sir. Yeah. And the rest IT, okay. Okay, so the questions will be right. Okay. Right. So let's go to some basic security concepts. I'm sure you know this, especially the security guys, that when you analyze um, when security problems or security incidents are reported to you, you need to classify it either CI or A, right? So confidentiality, integrity, or availability. So the most obvious ones would be the confidentiality incidents, right? Because it pertains to information disclosure. Then you have your integrity, which is about modification, and then availability. So it's important that we know when you do your root cause, the type of security issue, because that's the solution also that you will provide, right? So if it's a confidentiality issue, you need to provide a confidentiality solution. So examples would be confidentiality to put it in a local context. If you heard the news about the password tracking system, right? So data breaches are the common types of confidentiality problems. And the usual response for um, security teams would be to get to the bottom of it, right? But when you talk to management, upper management, usually they try to do damage control, right? So because in this particular case, the password tracking system, the DFA said um, there's nothing. It's like tracking numbers only. These are the only information that was exposed, etc., etc. When in fact there are other things, no? And this is what we need to put more time, right, and have a proper incident response process. So this is the most common, confidentiality. The second one is integrity. So integrity is a bit tricky because it talks about the content of the information. And when we talk about integrity, it's about correctness and completeness of information. So just this January, I'm not sure if you're using BPI, if you got more money or more more money debited from your account or added to your account, right? But this is a very serious security issue. Um, and we need to ensure, as security professionals in the IT team, that the information that is passed through the network, that is processed by the server, is accurate. That's the essence of integrity. Okay. And then, the last is availability. So usually, they will say, this is a networking problem, not a security problem, right? Because when we talk about availability, it's about downtime, it's about the SLA, so on. But in cybersecurity, in InfoSec, we talk about availability because it's the access to the information, and it's the information that we are securing. So we need to be able to access the information when we need it, right? So some of the things that we need to consider would be the timeliness, the continuity, which I'm sure the IT team, you do this, the BCP and the DR testing, and robustness of the infrastructure. So again, I think this is common for some of our e-wallet and online banking platforms, that they experience downtime. And then again, press release, it's they're doing maintenance, but on the back end, there's a lot of traffic that they cannot handle. Probably mix of legitimate and some suspicious traffic coming in. So we need to be able to monitor that and respond to it again. So that's CIA. All right. So let's now go to CyberThreat Environment, because I'm sure this is the one you're more familiar with, or you're experiencing it every day. So this is what we call the security relationships. So when we start identifying risk, we need to be able to map these items. So it's a cycle. So it starts with a threat agent, which gives rise to the threat, which exploits the vulnerability that leads to the risk, which can damage the asset and causes exposure, and can be countermeasured by a safeguard, which directly affects the threat agent. Now, consciously or unconsciously, you're identifying risk every day, right? In your work, when you handle security incidents, when a user reports to the IT team about certain problems, right? So you do your assessment. But the question here is, where do you start? Where do we start here? Because it's a cycle. What's the first thing that you think we should identify first before we can be able to measure the risk, right? Any? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. I yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So it's the asset. So you identify the asset. So it's important that we be able to identify what are the things that I need to protect, right? So it may be tangible assets like computers, like servers, like your firewall, or it can be information. But when you read information security books, they will always say that the information inside the tangible asset is more important or more valuable. So you need to be able to identify it and put a label, meaning identify how important that is. Is it whatever your labeling system is, whether it's confidential, highly confidential, or in the government, top secret, secret, and so on. Okay, so once you have identified the asset, you'll be able to come up with so many threats already, right? So many threats that may harm your asset. So the threat here would be anything that will try to harm your asset. And when you sit down with your team, you will be able to think so many threats. An employee, disgruntled employee, may it be a external hacker or a student, right? This can be, um, doing some threats, no, or harm to your asset. Okay. Um, so you need to be able to identify your threat and then your vulnerability, which is the weakness. And here it's important that the IT team knows the weaknesses in the infrastructure, and it's normal to pinpoint what the weaknesses are, right? Like you need, because it's a common IT problem. Like for example, we need to have EDR, endpoint detection response tool, or a certain firewall that meets these following specs, but we don't have, and then um, we try to recalibrate what we have right now, then there may be weaknesses that are present, okay, because the current solution that you have may not be addressing these issues. No? So, but you need to be able to acknowledge it, and that's normal. That's normal. You need to be able to acknowledge it so you can provide a better safeguard or an alternative solution. All right. So, yeah, you have your weakness, which is the vulnerability, your threat, which is the potential danger, and then from there you can come up with your risk rating. Right. So you have your, depending on the organization, there's no single correct matrix. But the important thing here is you have the matrix, you have defined the matrix, and identify when will it be high, when will the risk be high, when will the risk be low, what should be the combination of my threat and vulnerability. So usually you multiply it together and then you come up with a certain value, and then you identify this is the risk rating, and whether it's high or low, you can already prioritize. I will address this risk first, and so on. Okay, so you have your exposure, instance of being exposed to losses, and then safeguard, the one that you put into place to mitigate the potential risk. Um, yeah, and we do this together within the team, okay, after you have identified what risk you need to address. Okay, so for example, let's go to physical security. Okay, a broken doorknob, that's the example. No? So here, the broken doorknob is the weakness, is the vulnerability, right? Robbery here is the threat, that's the harm, that's the action. While the thief would be your threat agent or your actor. So the threat actor is the one that will execute the threat, exploiting the vulnerability and gaining access, gaining information, or gaining here money or whatever the target is. Okay. Okay. So let's have a short Mentimeter. If you have your phones with you, okay, let's just have a short meter. And then, yeah. So, what are your organization's assets? Okay. And um, not limited to what you're handling, so you can think because of other things. Okay, so you can join menti.com, use this code 6124 4095. Um, and then, sorry, 6124 4095. Yep. Let's see. And then you can type in okay, so your network, the data and the information, student information, course curriculum, the grades. Okay. Um, User credentials, yes. Okay. Student and personal data, financial data. Okay. Okay, that's good. So among these, what do you think is the most important if you're going to assess, right? Because again, we cannot we we need to prioritize which one we need to protect first. So among these things, what do you think? There's no single right answer. Maybe you have different um, answers. Any? Sir? Any student personal data information? Okay. Right. Okay. Probably because it's the bread and butter of the school, right? So if you expose it and then it so it will hit the reputation of the school and so on. Okay. Yep, makes sense. Yep. Yeah, and it will vary depending on the organization. So again, in a school, yeah, probably that would be the most important information that you need to protect. No, but for a bank, of course, it's a different story. So they will have to reassess, okay, customer information, financial information, etc. Okay. And based on your assessment, if this is the asset, you think that the student and personal data are well protected right now in this in hindsight. Yeah. Yeah, but a good answer. Yeah, good answer. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but because you know already that is the most important, you already have, an idea what potential threats can occur, and at the same time, what are the controls that should be in place. No? Okay. And then the next question here is, what are your organization's threats? Sorry, typo here. What are your organization's threats? Mhm. Not necessarily, not only pertaining to the personnel and student data. So it may be other things that um, um, you have. By the way, man, pala dito. Sorry. So for those who recited, sorry, Miss Shirley. Yeah, I have to prepare something. Sir? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot before I before I forget. And yeah. Yeah. What are your organization's threats? Okay, so I have disasters. Okay, hacking. Okay, ransomware. Yeah, these are the emerging ones. No? Yeah, compromised accounts. So malware, outdated outdated operating system. Okay. Okay. Disruptions. Resignations. Yeah, I think that yeah, it might pose as a threat if the person leaving is disgruntled, right? So or not happy. Yeah, you will have to tag that person. No? So yeah, among these threats, which do you think is the most difficult to mitigate or remediate? Anyone? Based on your assessment. Anybody? Sir?
I think the compromise amount.
Why compromise?
Uh, Probably users some users have different knowledge about how to protect their account,
Okay.
about how to what do you call this make sure that the password is fully secured, how to implement a secure password for their account.
Okay, so it's like it's not solely on the IT, meaning a lot of the responsibility will have to be done by the user themselves. Okay, right. Sir, thank you
Thank you,
for
moderators.
answering. Okay, yep. How about for disaster? What disaster? Uh, what type of disaster hits CSB the most? All right, sorry. There's a microphone, so I have to pass it over. Yeah, the most common. Yes, sir. Yeah, you have to use this now because yeah.
Normally, in terms of the network, most of the problems that we encounter is the external due to fiber cuts, network disconnections. Pero for the data, um, we encountered some of the data breaches,
Okay.
pero it's being patched with the firewalls and other mitigation systems that we got in place.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay. Let's yeah. Kit Kat, sir. Sir. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. And it's important that we know what the common threats are. I think that's the importance of this. No? And later on, I'm not sure if you have a multi-sectoral committee on identifying this, but for large organizations, they sit together and they they list down all the threats in the organization. So you will be hearing inputs from again HR, from the security guards, the physical security team. So you will realize that there are so many threats in the organization. Okay. All right. So, when we talk about cyber threat environment, when you put anything cyber here, um, it will now focus on IT. So, in anything cyber, anything that we implement and it's connected to the network. No? And when we talk about the cyber threat environment, it's the online space where the cyber threat actors can conduct your malicious cyber threat activity. So, to identify it, usually you do your self-assessment. Like, what apps and websites do you use? And from there, what apps have you used wherein you needed to sign up, right, and put your information. That's your cyber threat environment. So you use Facebook, you use Twitter, you use TikTok, you use so when you list it down, those are the entry points. Meaning if an intruder or a hacker will try to um, get hold of your information, he or she will just try to um, compromise one of these. So that's the entry point. So what what the common practice is, after you have identified your common apps, you disable which ones you don't need anymore, right? So yeah. And then for cyber threat actors, these are yeah, the again threat actors but doing cyber things, doing online things. And the goal is to exploit the vulnerabilities um, in the IT assets. Now, you will say, but we're a school, we don't think anybody will harm us, right? But during the pandemic, we saw how many attacks targeted schools, right? I mean, yeah, even hospitals, because these are for attackers. They think that these are the more vulnerable sectors, right? Because okay, they don't think that we will attack or things like those, and then and hit with DDoS, hit with data breach, etc. Okay, so these are your cyber threat actors, and it's everywhere. They're everywhere. No? So it's important to know your cyber threat actor. So apart from determining the threat, who are these potential actors? So that you'll be able to know how to combat this. So that's the idea. So, like for example, obviously, probably you will not be encountering nation-state cyber threat actors, but it's happening right now. Ukraine versus Russia, so they're fighting. So there is a motivation on geopolitical, and then there are cyber criminals for profit. So it's important to know the motivation also. Why is this person doing it to us? Are they angry? Are they disgruntled? Are they so you'll be able to come up with the right solution. No? So, like for example, hacktivists. Hacktivists is very tricky because you cannot negotiate with hacktivists, right? They will really, if they think that you're bad, they will really punish you, and you cannot negotiate with them. So, and based on experience, because I work for a multinational beverage company, and they think that that company is making more people obese and diabetic. So, so they are really launching a lot of DDoS attacks against the organization. Terrorist groups, thrill seekers, and then insider threats. Now, among these cyber threat actors, which do you think is um, the most, will have the highest success rate when doing their exploit? Sir? Yeah.
On my part, I would say the insider threats
Insider threats, okay.
because they already have the access. They have already the inside the vicinity of the area. Like
Okay.
that.
Yep. Very good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir. Here you go. Yep. Yeah, so the one with the highest success rate would be the insider threat. That's why a while ago when somebody said uh, resignation, it's a threat. Yeah, it's really true because yeah, for so many times we see employees copy paste, copying company files before they leave just for the sake that I can use this before, and I don't have people won't audit me, won't check me when I leave, etc. And keep some of the passwords with me so I can remote access to the servers whenever I want, and so on. So yeah, insider threats are the ones that have the high. And if you would notice, like, um, if you're familiar with the Bangladesh heist, right? It involved RCBC and some of the banks here in the Philippines. And you would think it's not the infrastructure is weak, right? Because it's the Central Bank of Bangladesh. So you would imagine how complex the network security is. But it started with connivance inside the organization when they intentionally disrupted the printer, and the accounts did not print before the end of day on Friday. So they did not have any monitoring about the accounts that are going out and the money going out, and then it was treated as something legitimate, right? So it's an insider threat that helped make it successful. Uh, another another common is the employee negligence. Accidentally sharing some files, confidential files to a wrong email, right? So you also have to consider this. Okay, employee negligence is a very very high risk threat. No? So there. Okay. let's go back to the Menti again. This time, let's answer who are my potential threat actors in the organization. So it can be a cyber threat actor. It can be a physical security level threat actor. Okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah, unhappy employees. Yeah, unhappy employees. Okay. A regular employee that accidentally might have shared some information, or one of the common problems in at least in the Philippines would be the oversharing of information, because primarily, yeah, by default we're like that. We're friendly, so we tend to overshare some information, sometimes classified information. Yeah, cybersecurity students, okay, associate, employee, yeah. Um, okay, are there any hacktivists? Do you think there are hacktivists that might be targeting Binil or not? Yeah. Yeah. When I was working in all of the companies I work with, the last one was a conglomerate, one of the largest conglomerate here in the country, and the hacktivists were hitting the headquarters, the main branch, a lot of the DDoS attacks, because they said that this company, which probably you know, and you might be buying from them, is the largest producer of plastic waste. And so it's polluting the ocean. So they provided a lot of statistics when we receive it, and then they're threatening to close the factory down. Obviously, they will not do that, but um, they're activists, so they will really do something to cause damage, and they don't care whether they get caught or not. Okay. Students, hackers, yeah, Another important here is the external partner. So, if you would notice in the data privacy news provided by the National Privacy Commission, a lot of the breaches happen not within the organization, but with their partner vendors. So they're not properly handling the data. So yeah, external partners. Who wrote this? External partners. This is a very good answer. Yeah, that's the top. Yeah, thank you, sir. But this is very important because, yeah, yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. Okay. And then when we talk about cyber threat surface, it's all the available endpoints that you're using. So it can be how many phones are you using? 3, 5. You have your personal business scene phone, um, and you have your desktop, laptop. So these are your endpoints, no? Okay, and it is considered your cyber threat surface, because again, it's an entry point for the attacker. Um, you're from IT, so probably you're starting your smart home, right? So that's part of the cyber threat surface. So you're trying to automate, you're trying to put your air conditioning unit, your um, what else? Your refrigerator in the network to control to control the temp, etc., etc. That is part of the cyber threat surface. So anything that is in your possession, that you put your information that is connected to the network, is part of the cyber threat surface. Okay, so I'll just run through some of the cyber threat toolbox, the common attacks. No? So we have your bots and botnets. I'm not sure if you're still using Pirate Bay or, of course, nobody will will say me. Yeah, but by default, peer-to-peer sharing sites are not illegal by default because you're sharing files. No? But some of the content may have copyright issues. No? But this is the primary source of bots and botnets. No? So yeah, based on McAfee study, based on semantic study, this is the common source. No? Because, and we know this, in security, nothing is free. So if you download something and it's free, it's a free movie, free game, it's not free, something is installed in your machine, it's something monitored, you're being monitored somehow, some information is taken from you, and so on. Okay? Yeah. Okay. And then the effect of this usually is what we call a DDoS. Okay, and what it happens is that after, let's say, there's a new movie, like let's say Oppenheimer, and then a lot of people download it from Pirate Bay, and simultaneously they watch it, and then the malware inside gets installed. They become zombies, right? So that's the common source of attackers to use when they launch DDoS attacks. So they would control, and it's called CNC, command and control. So they will command the zombies to attack the um, competitor, or if it's nation state, attack Ukraine or attack Russia, or so on. So that's the common application of bots and botnets. Ransomware. So we know this because in this era, because in the previous decade, they're not making profit out of the malware. Now they are. So usually it starts with a phishing attack leading to a ransomware. So again, once you download this, what happens is it encrypts all your files, and you need to pay a ransom, to get the information back. And then spyware. I think this one can be detected easily by your common antivirus solution. So anything that tracks a user's action is a spyware. And then typo squatting. So usually it's about the domain. Um, when you register a different, close to CSB, and then beniled, or beniled, but beniled with wrong spelling. Yeah, so if somebody mistakenly types it, then he or she will be redirected to the fake website. Another common would be MITM, or man-in-the-middle attack. So if it's eavesdropping, listening to the conversation. Another one is password cracking. So there are a lot of tools that you can use now. That's why it's in the common toolbox. So you get the SAM file for your Windows machines, and then run it against password cracking software. And then the common would be your virus, worm, and Trojan. So again, if you have your antivirus solution, anti-malware solution, then a lot of this may be detected and mitigated. So yeah. The Trojan usually is present in your P2P sites. So in Pirate Bay, in your, I forget the others, but all the others will have Trojan because there's a legitimate application coupled with a malware. Okay. And then Wi-Fi eavesdropping is common in a public area. So it's like a rogue access point. You place an access point with the same name, and then people will connect to the rogue access point, and then you can get user information out of it. And then zero-day vulnerability, which um, I'm sure you may have encountered when you're doing your patching, right? So zero-day attacks are attacks that are not yet discovered. So until such time that there's a notice that there's a CVE or common vulnerability and exploit, it remains unknown. And it's hard to stop zero-day attacks unless you have other security solutions in place. All right? And then, again, we have phishing, which is very common. And then spear phishing. So in spear phishing, there's really a target. Usually a VIP or a person with a lot of keys to the kingdom. Okay, so yeah, these are the common ones. All right. Any questions on the cyber threat toolbox? I think these are common, so you have probably have encountered one or probably all of those, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's now, so there's a Kahoot. Sorry, we'll just have to identify whether the ones shown is a vulnerability threat, threat actor, or safeguard. All right, let's see. How do I save? Start. Let's start. So it's different when I'm projecting here versus in Teams. Pag Teams, you can choose the window. All right. Okay, let's see. Let's do classic mode. One, two, three, four. I think we can. Yeah. Because I'm only using the free one. Okay. Yep. All right. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, please join. You can use your phone. I'm sure you've used this before. Yeah, just type in the pin and then we'll start after. Okay, we have Vin, C and says Bert. Okay. All right. Viral. All right. Shirley. Kit. Mm-hmm. Pacman. Okay, one, two, three, four, five. Two, three, four, five. I think we're with 7. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so we can start. All right. See. Okay. Is there a sound? Wala. Okay. Okay. Hacktivist, is it a vulnerability, threat actor, threat, or safeguard? Is there sound here? All right, so the answer is a threat actor. Okay, thank you. So let's see. Who's leading? Okay, Bert is leading. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there's no sound. Anti-malware. Okay. Okay, so the answer is, okay, so anti-malware. So, McAfee and Symantec and all the others will correct you. It's not antivirus anymore. It's anti-malware because it covers other malware. So, anti-malware is a safeguard. All right. So, we have CNSS. Okay, leading. All right, next. Phishing. Vulnerability threat, threat actor, safeguard. Alright. Okay. Yep. All right. So yeah. Okay. Phishing is a threat. Okay. Okay. So who's leading? Let's see. We have C and Ses. Okay, still leading. Pacman has nice answer streak of 3. All right. Next. No PIN code in the mobile phone. All right. Okay. Good. So we have. Okay. So it's vulnerability. No? So it's a weakness. Good. All right. Okay. CNSS is still leading. Okay. Ransomware. Okay. Very good. So ransomware is a threat. Okay, good job. Okay. Oh, bilis talaga si CNSS. All right. Script kiddies. So script kiddies are actually the a threat actor, but it's not listed there in the table because they're really kids, so they Google how to hack Facebook, right, and then they follow whatever is instructed to them. If they succeed, good. If not, okay. Let's see. All right, Pacman is now leading, and then Bert. Okay. Next. Outdated web browser version. Yeah. All right. Very good. So yeah, again, yeah, if you're yeah, okay, so it's a vulnerability. So you need to update your browser. Okay, Pacman is leading. Okay. All right. And the last is a Trojan. A Trojan is a all right. So a Trojan is a threat. Okay. Very good. Okay. So we have CNSS, and then Bert, and Pacman. Sino po sila? Who are these good-looking guys? So, sorry. Ay, CNSS. Here you go. Sir, who's the other one? Albert. Ay, sir, kung gusto niyo dito. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Ako na, sir. Okay. Thank you for participating. Uh, okay. Yeah, so thank you for participating here. So, yeah, um, you will not be able to identify the threats that actor, when you do it internally, the next or the debatable part would be rating it, right? So it's possible that for one person it's high, for the other person is medium, and then the other one is low. So and that's part of the fun in IT, right? When you when you start discussing what the risk rating is. No? Now, let's go to the last part. So this is the last part of our short discussion. Um, is how to combat, right? Because threats will be never ending, right? It's, you know, if you start writing all the threats, eh, it's never ending. You will write a lot of things. No? But the question now is, how do we combat these threats? And in security, we know that there's no silver bullet, right? Meaning, there's no single solution that will answer all these problems. So, for security, I'm sure you know this, the NIST, Cybersecurity Framework. Okay, so it's the National Institute of Standards and Technologies from the U.S. Department of Defense. Right, so there's actually an updated version. They have 6 functions already, but for now, we'll focus on the 5. So The concept of defense in depth is enforced here. So in security, we concede, right, that at some point, some of our defense may fall, right? So if that happens, there has to be another layer, and then another layer, and then another layer, right? So, and that's the usual practice, and that's the acceptable practice. And that's why we say firewall alone cannot stop all the threats. So because it's a preventive tool, but if there are traffic that will be able to pass through, we need to be able to detect them, right? So it says here that when you identify the threat already, okay, you can already map what the controls are, right? So again, we start with identify your assets. What are my assets? Okay, and then all the way to the defense. Protect, which is to implement safeguards to ensure protection of the assets. Okay, and then so you do it in chronological order, right? So you identify, then you protect, okay, and then after you protect, you detect, right? So you detect things that that pass through the protect stage or the protect function, and then once you're able to detect, you need to be able to respond. Okay, that's why you know there's always a threat with the ChatGPT and the AI and so on. But the respond phase will have to be done by somebody who can analyze it based on that scenario, based on that situation. And obviously, we need people, real warm body, warm bodies to analyze and make sound judgment on what response should we be doing. Right? And this is crucial because usually response will have time is of the essence. So let's say, for example, you mentioned about breach, right? About ransomware. So what should we do? And at times, it's not clear in the run book or in the playbook what to do. Okay. And the last part is recover. So assuming that all of these things fail and we got hit by a ransomware, we were not able to stop the ransomware, we need to be able to recover from it. We need to be able to rebuild the server again. We need to pull the backup and put the data in the new clean server again and make sure that it's operational, right? So, cybersecurity framework. And when you look at it, it's very long. But once you start mapping or uh, aligning your policies, your initiatives to the NIST, it would be very easy because the templates are available and it's easy to use. So usually, for most of my services outside, we use this to determine the security posture of the company. It's easy to identify where, because at times CTO, CISOs are very overconfident with what they think they know, what they think is security for them. But when you use an acceptable framework, and then afterwards you assess, okay, after all the evaluation, you're level 1. So they cannot complain because it's the standard. So it's the framework that we are using all throughout, no, for across industries. So yeah, and that will give you a clear picture. Okay, we missed some on the respond phase, some on the recover, right? Okay, so an example here would be, again, best example would be physical security. So you identify your asset. In this case, your house. The protect is your gate. The detect is your CCTV. Okay. Respond is to call the police. Recover, usually this happens when a disaster strikes. You evacuate, right? So this is where your DR DR sites will be activated. All right. Okay. So, um, types of risk strategies. You have um, this. So, apart from identifying the risk rating, because you have identified the threat and then the vulnerability, okay, it's high and then high, so the risk is high. What are we going to do after? What is our risk strategy? Are we going to accept it? So, this happens when you acknowledge the risk, but you don't take action, you just accept it. Okay. It happens a lot of times. Although if we're security and IT, we don't like it. We don't like you to accept. We want you to fund us, right? Give us budget to fix it. That's what we want because we know the ramifications of the threat if it happens. No? The common practice that we do in IT is mitigation, right? So when the when we have identified the risk, when there's a defect, we mitigate it. Right? We do the fixes, we do the patching, right? We fix the code, okay, so that um, the risk is mitigated. The third is risk avoidance. So if the function is no longer, you identify that password is a problem or a certain module is a problem, you remove that particular function to avoid the risk. Right? So that's risk avoidance. And the last is risk transference. This is insurance. So when you pass the risk to a third party, and this happens when the risk is very when the threat is high, but um, the risk rating is but the occurrence may be low, meaning it doesn't happen every day. So you do risk transference. No? So yeah, these are your risk strategies. Question: when is it acceptable to do risk acceptance for you, based on experience or based on maybe not experience, based on textbook or what? When is it acceptable to do risk acceptance? What are your conditions, or what should be met, right, so that a risk can be accepted? Anybody? Or we just totally have to meet? Yeah, yes, sir. Here. Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. Go.
I think when the risk is not repetitive,
Not like what? An example, sir.
it means it doesn't occur always.
Okay, so like a one-time thing. Okay, a one-time thing. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? I still have. Sir. Yeah. Thank you. Any other? Yeah. Very good, sir. Thank you. Yeah. So, sir said minimal damage. Yeah. For IT, that's really the main. Yeah, it's not recurring. Yeah, so one-time thing. Okay, management can accept because probably we don't know how to handle it yet. Also, that's one. But the more acceptable for IT would be if the risk is low and it's negligible. Usually, when I do pen testing and then we classify it as low, it's like it's good practice for security, but it does not pose a threat. So, like, you can improve your code, but the code itself will not it's not hackable in a sense. But this is the standard practice. You can do this. Okay, so or it's a best practice. So if it's low, if the risk rating is low, and you agree it's low, so it's not just because at times application owners, server owners will go to security and say, will try to negotiate and say, can you make it lower? So we won't have any problem. So based on your technical assessment, when you say that it is low, then it can be accepted. Not because, we don't have budget. Of course, it's a business decision. Yeah, but the stand of the IT will remain, it's still high, right? The risk is still high. So we have to find a way to fix it. All right. Okay. Yep. Okay, so measures that reduce risk. So this picture over here, from MS Paint, is from ISO, not my doing. So what they're saying here is that again, multiple layers of defense. So if you have a lot of threats, okay, but when a threat is prevented, then it stops there. It does not go in the organization, right? But like for example here, the firewall prevents unwanted traffic. It only permits the web traffic, port 80. Okay. Um, yeah. So it's prevented. So when you try to access different port like 81, 82, then it's black. But if it's not prevented, it becomes an incident, right? To be more specific, it becomes a security incident for us. Okay, so when a user downloads a virus unknowingly while browsing the web, okay, it was not prevented, okay, and it becomes an incident. So again, the same process, whether you follow ISO or the NIST, you still have to detect and then respond and recover if needed. Okay? But other options will be, again, risk transference, which is insurance, okay? Or acceptance. If you acknowledge the risk, but you don't have any plans on fixing it. Right? Okay. Any questions here on how to combat threats? I think it's straightforward. Okay. So let's have a quick scenario question, and anybody can share what their answer is. So you have a school portal, so a little bit relatable to Benil. Okay, so there are users that are locked out because you have noticed that there is a brute force attack. So there are 5 attempts based on the audit logs in 10 seconds. So based on your investigation, you found out that a brute force attack is targeting your users and eventually forcing a lockout to them when they need to log in. Actually, we can skip the bullets. Probably you can share what do you think should be done. Because this is common, right? The brute force attacks are common if the portal is open public, right? So, and assuming the portal is open in the internet, and you are receiving a lot of complaints from different students that their accounts are locked out because somebody or probably an automated script is intentionally locking out the students, what will you do? Again, there's no single correct answer. So there are lots of things to do to recommend. But what would be the recommendation? Anyone? Sir, yeah, I think you have. Yeah.
Sige, sir.
Probably you've encountered this also, so yeah, your strategy. Yeah.
Sa ngayon, sir, we don't have, we're not able to encounter those
Okay.
kinds of threats pa. I think what are the strategy that we can implement or the controls that we can implement is through information drive, the user can be notified that their accounts are vulnerable by of course their password is weak, so we have to implement a stronger password policy for that. Then another controls we can implement is by providing a MFA, multi-factor
MFA,
authentication.
okay.
Yeah, after inputting their password, they can receive a notification that, or another factor that before before logging in into a particular link or website or access, uh, they will receive a notification.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. But do you how about the account lockout mechanism? Do you think it should be disabled or reconfigured? What would be your stand?
Sir, I think it can be configured if there's a minimum attempts for the brute force attack. I think we can implement at least if there's a 5 attempts on the on within the given time na there's a brute force attack happening, we can implement a lockout account or disable the account immediately. But,
Okay, so there's still lockout mechanism.
yes, sir.
Yeah, there's still okay. Well, thank you. Sir. Any other insights? Okay. None. Yeah. Yeah, and in when doing your risk assessment, you can actually think of the wildest scenarios in place, right? Because yeah, it may not happen or may not happen in the um, within the year or so, but you can already simulate it within the team. What are we going to do when this happens? Because it may happen. It may happen. Um, and when it happens, it's really something you have to act on right away, right? And when you're not, when you have not thought of it, you have not planned it, then you might not know what to do, right? And you might do something drastic, something baka matsambahan, or may not be what the outcome that you like to happen. No? Okay. All right. So, any others? Do you have technical recommendations here, or apart from the MFA, you still enforce the lockout, sir? Yeah. Sorry, sir. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Go.
So I guess to address the question is the asset in danger would be your user credentials,
Yep.
and then your threat would be, of course, the bot or the script that's causing the lockups. Then the vulnerability, I suppose, it's not a vulnerability in itself. It's just that if you have the account, parang may lockout policy, what you have is basically in effect a DDoS.
Yep.
Nangyayari. That's happening. So just to immediately address the situation, as Manny said, no, we can try to adjust the account lockout policy or disable it for the meantime, just so that people can continue with operations.
Mhm.
And then we need to track down where the source is, SIM, XDR, endpoints, or whatever methods, and then lock it down, either disconnect it or clean it. Ayun. And then in terms of preventing it, I think MFA was mentioned na rin, no, na as a possible ano. Um, yeah, that's all. I
Yeah.
can think
Thank
of.
you. Thank you, sir. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So another good insight here is to lock down to trusted host, right? So either IP based, geographic, right? Usually, if there's a DDoS attack or an external attack, this will be coming from unknown IPs, right? So you can lock it down to trusted geographical IPs, or a more drastic or more restrictive setup. Okay, I thank you for that. And my final question here is, so there's another scenario. This is the last one. Okay. So, yeah. So, somebody from accounting received an email stating that the school has a penalty for not submitting certain government docs on time. Very worried, she clicked on the link to see more information. She downloaded a PDF file and opened it. Upon opening the file, the ransomware started encrypting her machine and infecting all other machines in the network. How will you respond? So, ransomware attack. So that's the usual behavior naman. The behavior of ransomware. It will start with a phishing attack, and all of the devices that are within the network, assuming they're not secured, will be infected as well. So, what is our strategy? I was supposed to put here it's payroll time, so that's why, but I remove it. So, but just ransomware and but assuming the files are important because it's payroll stuff, financial stuff is there. How do you plan to? Yeah, yeah. Probably the action after would be security awareness, right? Because you should have not clicked on it. But as a reactive approach, what do you think is the best? Does anyone here want to pay? If because it's ransomware, you have to pay. Will anybody pay? Wala ba? Yeah. Wala mo. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah. Sir? Any? Yeah, I think you have something in mind.
Not immediate naman, sir. Pero pag pinaka-immediate naming task na gagawin is to disconnect the machine that connected to the network. Then, the strategy siguro, sir, is to identify din kung bakit ganun yung nagiging respond nung threat na yon sa ibang machine. Kunyari, pwedeng AI, kung anong AI yung something na ganun, titignan ng scenario din namin kung ano yung better approach para doon po. Yun lang, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So, remove from the network. Actually, that's the normal action for any malware activity. So that it will not spread. At the same time, it will not report out information. Right? Okay. Yeah. Any other information? Any other, sir? Any other? Have you encountered this before? Not yet. False positive, yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's good. You don't have a lot of threat actors here. It means, yeah. Okay. Alright. So, yeah. The most critical part for a ransomware is to determine if you have a backup. Yeah. Assuming you won't pay, because it's still debatable whether you will pay or not. And we cannot, for hospital, during the pandemic, they are targeting hospitals, and hospitals paid a lot of money just to recover the file. So at times we really can't judge why to pay or not to pay, because at times they have no option. But the first thing that we do is to look for if we have a backup, because if we have a backup, then good. We don't have to deal with it. We just have to reformat it and get the golden image and then load the files again. But assuming there's no backup, so we have to assess the criticality of the data inside. So assuming it's not so important, personal files or what, we can wipe it out. But later on, for security, my personal take is we don't pay, but it will be the management's decision whether to pay or not. And at times, they will say, go ahead and pay. Although we say the ramifications, like even if we pay, we don't know if they will give the key and retrieve it. So your call, right? Another option would be if you have an antivirus provider, check if there's a live signature for the particular ransomware. If there is, then it's possible they can decrypt it, right? In the US, what they do, apart from checking the provider, would be call law enforcement agency, law enforcement. Um, Here in the Philippines, we still don't have that option. Right? So, yeah, but these are the scenario. Okay. Any questions from anyone? None? Okay. Okay, I think we're good. So, yeah, thank you for coming here today. So, just to summarize, we learned the basic security concepts and relate it with the organization. Hopefully, you were able to relate it. And then learn about the threat landscape, because these are fundamental concepts, but very handy whether you're coming from management, you're coming from right technical. Okay, because the end goal is to be able to map it and make it make we agree on which things we need to protect first. And last is we learn how to combat the threats by identifying the risk strategies and the appropriate controls. Okay, so that's the last slide. And thank you everyone for your active participation. Yeah. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you. Yeah.